Hello there and welcome back to a new video. So what Constantine said about the implications of the Charlie Kirk's assassination is very compelling to overlook. So let's begin this video by looking at that.
But I found it difficult to sit there and listen to this preposterous conversation you've just had. I don't understand this time last year, I sat across from one of your guests, Cenk, on that particular occasion, in which he tried to persuade me for 20 minutes that Donald Trump was a fascist. That's how the left talks about their political opponents. And I'm someone who's not politically affiliated. I'm just looking at the facts of what I see. We have had for the last 10 years, what has happened to the word Nazi as a result of the woke left's behavior is completely unacceptable. This is a word that we had for a very specific group of people that was supposed to describe people who believe in National Socialism and fascism. These words have very specific meanings, and the meanings that they had were very important for being able to describe people who are actually of that opinion. And instead, both in America and here across the Atlantic in Britain, and we're not talking about people on Twitter or people on Blue Sky. I'm talking about David Lammy, who's the current deputy prime minister, talking about a group of conservative Eurosceptics and saying they're worse than Nazis. We've had this for a whole decade now, the complete dehumanization of people for simply having political disagreements. And so when I see that the killer of Charlie Kirk had these so-called anti-fascist inscriptions on his ammunition, I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked. Of course this would happen. And people like to pretend that it has no consequence. Well, think about it, Piers. You're a man, I'm a man. If you and I thought that fascism was actually here, as we keep being told, wouldn't it be our duty to stand up and fight? So can we really be surprised then when some deranged guy picks up a rifle and shoots someone who people on the media, people on TV keep saying is a fascist, keep saying is a Nazi? Is completely irresponsible.
Liberalism definitely is a movement that started as a reaction or started against all kinds of hegemony affecting human life, to challenge and break dogmatic worldviews and to dismantle repressive or regressive types of governments or rule. In fact, our inalienable rights as human beings are reified using laws, just so we wouldn't fall victim to repressive authorities or dogmatic ideologies. Our fundamental rights are the gifts of liberalism given to us for the same reason. The world has moved on so much in the centuries, and the liberalism that has endured still has its charm. A certain amount of faith in the constitutional law, albeit constantly checked by dissent or protest, to safeguard the freedom, equality, and justice for all. Liberals themselves never believe in being violent or forcing or coercing others into our own ways. It's a dream of live and let live, where all social, political, and economic infrastructure would come together to build such a life where harmony and peace and development all rules. It's basically an idea of laissez-faire, social contract, and inclusivity. But what has it become today?
And there are a lot of people that are like, no matter what side of politics you're on, you should never celebrate something bad happening to someone. I, on the other hand, do cheer when bad things happen to bad people.
Charlie Kirk just got shot.
Well, breaking fucking news, folks. Seems somebody just took a shot at one of the Fanta-Fascist favorite 5-mile wide mouthpieces, Charles Chucklefuck Kirk.
I'm not saying she deserved it, but I'm saying God's timing is always right.
And goodness knows the wicked's lives are lonely.
This question has reached its utmost tipping point after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Today, liberalism is something that keeps people from feeling proud of their nation, standing up for their nation, or for embracing their culture, unless it's a culture sanctioned by the left. It's something that punishes people for speaking one's truth, which is legitimate, demonizing everything nuanced, everything that is not black and white, demonizing anything that the left dictate is wrong. Basically, liberalism has become just a puppet in the hands of the left or the far left, whatever you want to call that. And Charlie Kirk today is dead for the same reason, because he was against everything that the left stood for. Critical race theory that says that you are always and eternally at a disadvantage just because of a class struggle or the color of your skin. Feminism that says that women are always going to be oppressed and victimized by the stronger sex. LGBTQ, socialism, multiculturalism, and open borders. That's because liberalism at some point in history came under the banner of the political left. It has never even thought twice to call somebody like Charlie Kirk fascist, Nazi, bigot, basically an evil person. And that has now taken his life.
I'm more like a free speech liberal of the 1970s, not a fascist.
But I just want to say, turning.
But he is not the first person to be called by these names or these slurs, political slurs. From Trump to Modi to Netanyahu to all public figures in all domains who speak against the left are called fascist or Nazis or bigots or misogynist, so on and so forth. Prejudicial or stereotypical treatment has put them in such an enormous amount of danger, which the liberals have never even addressed or even acknowledged. And in the disguise of anti-fascism, what has the liberal left helped smuggle into most of the modern or advanced countries across the globe? A deranged sexual revolution advocating violence against babies in mothers' wombs, and also a sexual revolution that put the very recipients of that revolution in danger, that is women's health. An LGBTQ revolution that justifies erasure of womanhood and sexual exploitation of minors and women alike. And violence against any kind of opposition, against the depravity that such kind of an ideology brings forth. An ideology that legitimizes sexual exploitation, physical domination, and exposure of children to indecency. A BLM movement that looted, killed, and burned cities for days because of the critical race theory that brainwashed minorities into victimhood. And more egregious than anything else, supporting an unreformed, dogmatic, deadly ideology from a different century altogether that hijacks societies, turns them into casualties, and calls for active violence against anyone who doesn't support it or convert into their fold. Whenever I think of liberalism, this clip from the Chicago trial series is what comes to my mind. And it has gotten so much worse.
My problem is that for the next 50 years, when people think of progressive politics, they're going to think of you. And so we'll lose elections. And it is astonishing to me that someone still has to explain that to you.
These are the times when I cannot help myself but remember how it was when I was in this side of the political spectrum, being a liberal myself, who had so much anger and hatred towards anybody who said that we were weaker or we were not capable of doing certain things. Yet, very confused when it came to Islam or how Muslim women should be treated, or about the so-called sexual revolution that was supposed to make us all more free, but we would never feel like that, rather sick and confused and almost always feeling exploited from very different corners. Being constantly guilt-tripped for being a member of the majoritarian group in a society with more privilege than not, and having to and making us feel like we have to constantly make amends or reparations for what was being done by our ancestors to other groups. Not being able to trust any government because of the socialist policies that almost always fails, but always guilt-tripped or fear-mongered to believe to stand with any other groups, any other political groups, because they were all fascist and Nazis and bigots and racists. So we can never be part of any other political movement other than the left liberal movement. And they would never offer you anything at all. So in the name of equality, in the name of inclusivity and freedom, what all nonsense have the liberals really allowed to enter their brains and their minds and their political view? Today, liberalism does not stand for non-violence or equality or freedom of any sort, rather of dogma, of hegemony, of not being able to speak out, of hate speech, and of violence against anybody who speaks up against anything the left says. So where are these liberals today? The liberal force of the left has become so chaotic and dangerous that there is no way that genuine liberals, that people who actually believe in equality, freedom, truth, and constitutional laws, constitutional rights above all, cannot stay within that liberal domain. Honestly, they are all hiding in the right wing across the world today, because it's the right wing that allows them room to disagree, to dissent, and to actually express what they want to say. But an important fact is also that Charlie Kirk's death has made a huge impact, that the right wing across the globe can't be silenced anymore. No matter what you call them, no matter how bigoted, racist, sexist, Nazi or fascist you make them out to be, they are still going to come up and speak their minds, because it's that goal or it's that idea that Charlie Kirk died for. Their need for justice is far stronger than any fear, guilt, or gaslighting the left can do upon them. So it's basically like, bring it on. We are going to speak our minds and defend our freedom. The question is, when are the liberals going to grow a pair and do the same and stand up against hegemony and dogma and repression, something that they have always stood up for or were always meant to fight against? Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, because I love making these kinds of videos. And please share your thoughts below in the comment section. We can engage there. Thank you and have a great time.